Hello and welcome back to TVP World. My name is Alexander Lukashenko and these are World Talks. Poland's government has approved plans for a tough new migration strategy that will include the possibility to temporarily suspend the acceptance of asylum claims if immigrants threaten to destabilize the state. In the last 3 years, Poland has seen thousands of people trying to cross its heavily forested border with Belarus. They have been encouraged to fly to Minsk by Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko and are then directed by Belarusian authorities toward the border with Poland. And joining us now to discuss this topic further is Bartłomiej, Program Director, Warsaw Security Forum. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning. Lovely to be here with you.
So now, how do you assess the current situation on the Polish-Belarusian border, which is, of course, formally the eastern border of the EU?
It is the eastern border of the EU. It is also the eastern flank of NATO, of course. I mean, the situation continues to be, of course, a problem to the security of Poland. Belarus is highly dependent, if not the dependent country on Russia. The whole activity of the Belarusian regime that is orchestrating the migration flows through the border, through the Polish border, are not only the threat to Polish security, but are also the threat to the European security. Most of those migrants are not later on staying in Poland. They're traveling through Poland and they are reaching out countries such as Germany or the UK even. So even not only the European Union problem, it is. And they're, of course, impacting the internal politics of these countries. When we look at the decision of the German government to also put the border guards, the border controls on Polish German border, this is also of course the result of this action that is undertaken by Lukashenko in close cooperation, of course, with Putin. So it continues to be the security threat to Poland, but not only to Poland, to the whole European Union.
Mm-hmm. So now, what does the right to political asylum look like in the face of this hybrid war on Poland's eastern border now? And then how will this change given these latest news?
Of course, we have the regulations that are not only Polish regulations, but they're also like the international law regulations, the European Union law regulations that have the impact on our possibility to coordinate, to control the right to asylum of the people that are actually appearing at the border and applying for the asylum. But honestly speaking, most of these regulations that were, of course, written in a completely different times that we are living through right now. There were the regulations that were put into the activity when Europe was considered to be absolutely a safe continent, where there was no even thinking about that the migration that is used right now as a tool in a hybrid warfare of Putin and Lukashenko. So we should actually be capable of differentiating the two aspects of it. First of all, the asylum right, as it was actually delivered, drafted in a different times that we are living through right now. It is of course binding to Poland. It is of course based on the ethical and humanitarian grounds that Poland is a part of, the same kind of a moral ground that we have in this country, that our legal system is abiding to. But of course, we have a different situation right now, which is the situation of a high security threat to the security not only of Poland but also of the European Union, and therefore comes actually the declaration of the Prime Minister. That is not only the declaration that is, of course, targeting the Polish audiences, but I would rather consider that as a matter of fact a narrative, a political narrative that is currently displayed to our European partners and to the European Commission, that of course Poland would have to have the right to draft its own laws related to the migration, based on the security arrangements that we have right now. But also it is a call to our European partners that the European regulations should also be based on the assumption that there are countries that are, of course, facing the security threat. It is not only Poland, it is also Finland, for example.
So now you mentioned this declaration of the Polish Prime Minister. Why this change in policies in the Polish government, and why did the Prime Minister Donald Tusk, make these announcements now?
Well, we are actually in a very interesting time when it comes to the political developments in Europe. Of course, I already mentioned that there was a move from the German government to establish the border control between Poland and Germany. That was directly connected to the migration flows, and that was also very much directly connected to what is politically happening right now in Germany. There is a rise of the far right that we have seen through the results that the AfD achieved in the local elections, and most of these results, positive results to AfD, are very much connected to how actually people respond to the lack of coherent policy on migration. The same goes when it comes to the recent engagement of the Italian government that actually introduced also yesterday they actually made that happen. I mean, that was enacted, the possibility to move the migrants before they even reach the Italian soil to Albania. And there was also an announcement from the European Commission that should actually rethink the policy related to establishing centers for migrants, centers in which they would be waiting for the claims to be resolved, and possibly, if they are considered to be illegal migrants, to be moved to the safe countries. So honestly speaking, we are living through the times in the European Union where the discussion about the necessity to change the migration policy is very much at stake, and I would consider actually the announcements of Polish Prime Minister not only as connected to the internal politics of Poland, because there was, of course, the announcement that there is a need for an established migration policy of the government, but also, as a matter of fact, that they come in the right time and the right place right now also to communicate with our Western partners. So now you mentioned, of course, the news coming out from Italy, and also previously in the news bulletin we heard that Giorgia Meloni has called Italy's approach to the matter, let's say, a role model, to follow. What do you make of her words and of Italy's approach to the matter of migration? Well, Meloni is actually, she has introduced a scheme when it comes to the migration policy that is, I wouldn't call it the first of its kind. So, of course, she may consider that as being a role model for other European countries. But it is also tried to some degree by the British government, the Conservative government, in Rwanda bill. But it's also one of the ideas of how the migration policy should be actually drafted that is fluctuating right now among the European countries. We have a bit of a different approach, I would say. Of course, we want to protect the border, and we put a lot of the effort on security of the border by establishing, of course, the fence, by building right now the even bunkers on the eastern border. They're not only, of course, targeting the illegal migration. They're because we think about the threat to our border based on actually even the kinetic threat from Russia and Belarus. But the truth is that most of the problems that are right now connected to the migration policy of the Western European states are connected to the fact that those migrants, they appear in these countries, and before they can even be, their asylum claims can even be targeted. They could be actually either positively applied or negatively applied. These migrants are already on Italian soil or the soil of the UK. And that constitutes a huge problem to these countries because it takes time. These people are, of course, they stay in the centers that are built for migrants, and there are also very costly schemes to these countries. So the idea is here very simple, that they should be waiting for the claims to be granted or not in third countries. So not in the European Union, and that would save our money, and that would save also our, let me put it that way, it will save also the political impact of the fact that those migrants appear on the European Union soil. Because there is a huge connection right now between the rising far-right support to the far-right, and the fact that those migrants are clearly speaking visible in these countries. And that impacts, of course, the trends and the opinions of the electorate in these countries.
Mm-hmm. So now let's speak a bit about reactions to this recent announcement here in Poland. We have the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. She has introduced a 10-point action plan on migration, and she advocates in it for a unified EU approach to migrant returns, suggesting the creation of specialized return hubs outside EU borders. And just given what you said, this lack of coherent EU policy on the matter, just how can the whole EU make this work? How do you see this, playing out?
I mean, what she's trying to establish right now is, I would say, the response to the actions of the countries that took control over the migration policy back to their own internal matters. Under the pressure of course, this security affairs. Poland is a good example of that. Finland is a good example of that. But we have also heard a lot of the statements of support to the Polish position also from the Nordic countries, so Sweden, Denmark. So countries that have already seen the failure of some of the asylum-related policies in their own countries, and that they're also under a very huge migration pressure at the moment. The European Commission is certainly trying to respond to the, in my opinion, my humble opinion, very rightful claims of these countries that there should be not only coordinated but also a harder approach towards the migration that is used as a tool in a hybrid warfare of Lukashenko and Putin. But not only because of that. I mean, we also see, of course, the huge migration flows on the southern border of the European Union that impact the security of these countries. So it is. As our migration policy is named right now, taking back control, which speaks very much to the British statements from pre-Brexit times. But honestly speaking, I mean, it is the European Union right now, the European Commission, that really wants to take back control over the migration policy. And in my opinion, there are at least two things that if they are not actually targeted properly by the European Union policies, and these are migration and the Green Deal. If the European Commission will not change the approach towards these policies and will not enact a coordinated approach towards that, with a bit of a different approach that it was under the previous Commission, then they constitute a huge challenge to the whole coherence of the Union and to the future of the Union. So I can only, applaud the statement of von der Leyen, because she's trying to, in a sense, civilize this approach of the member states and to put it into one coherent policy. And there is a need for that.
All right, and with that message, we'll end it there. Bartłomiej, the Program Director at Warsaw Security Forum, thank you very much for speaking to us here on TVP World. And that's a wrap for this edition of World Talks. But as always, do stay tuned to TVP World for more news updates and commentary.